Hey y'all, have you ever stared at a wiring diagram and just thought it looked like hieroglyphics, having no idea where to start, where to end, or what any of the symbols are? Well, in this video, I'm going to help you make sense of it. So right out of college, I got a job at a dealership and I spent 14 years of my life as an automotive technician. Didn't really know for the first 7 years, I wasn't really sure where I fit in. Like I did a little bit of everything, what we call a line technician. I did some transmission rebuilds, repairs, along with pretty much everything else that there was in the automotive world. Well, it wasn't until I left my first job after 7 years and went to another dealership that I really grew to understand and love electronics. So from that point forward, my specialty was what we call drivability and electrical. So drivability is like engine running problems. And of course, electrical is electrical. So in my career, I spent 14 years as a tech, 14 years as a service manager. And then I've been a teacher now at the same college I graduated from, actually, for almost 8 years. And one of the things that I see in students and even in myself as a young technician was wiring schematics, wiring diagrams. They can be very complicated, a lot of symbols, a lot of drawings, a lot of abbreviations and words we may not understand. So I want my channel to be just the basics. So I'm geared more towards a do-it-yourselfer or maybe a student who needs a little bit more help understanding a concept. And that's where we're going to focus our time on this channel. I may get into more details later, but for now, we're just going to look at the very basics of a wiring schematic. So let's switch to the schematic. All right, so here we have this is an easy one, a horn wiring schematic on, I forgot what vehicle this was. It's a General Motors vehicle because that's my background. Okay. I know GM vehicles almost as well as I know myself from the mid 80s all the way up to, when I left the dealership to go to work at the school. So looking at the wiring diagram here, and I try to teach things as simply as possible because I understand, like when we have students come into our program, we'll have students that have worked on vehicles their entire life. They grew up around it and they understand some things. They just need to hone those skills, or they just need the degree to be able to get a higher paying job, or whatever the case. But we also have students who come in and they don't know the difference between a ratchet and a screwdriver, literally. Okay, and that's cool. I teach to everybody. We teach to everybody because we want you to understand how things work, and I want you to be successful so that I can say, hey, that was one of my students. So it's kind of almost a selfish thing, but I digress. Let's look at the wiring diagram. So I'm going to be looking down. I've got this Supernote tablet that I'm using to make annotations on. That's how I'm going to draw on this wiring diagram that you see here. So if I look down, I'm sorry, I'm not being rude. I just have to look down while I'm writing, right? All right. To start with, let's talk about the underhood fuse block, okay? So that part right there that I just circled, the underhood fuse block. So when you look at a wiring diagram, you'll see some solid blocks like this, and not all manufacturers, not all schematic drawers do this, but I found it really cool that General Motors does this. So you can see that you've got this dotted line right here around the underhood fuse block, right? So it's like a dotted line, but then around the horn assembly, why did that not? There we go. Had a little lag on the arrow, but then around the horn assembly, we've got a solid square box, right? So understand this. When you see a dashed line or a dotted line, whatever you want to call it, a broken line, a broken shape around an object like the underhood fuse block, what that's telling you is you're looking at a portion of the underhood fuse block, okay? You're not seeing the whole picture. You're just seeing a part of it. So when you look at the underhood fuse block, the only thing in it is not this horn relay. We're just looking at a small part of the underhood fuse block. This does not incorporate the whole underhood fuse block. Does that make sense? Okay. So then looking at the horn assembly, we can see it's a solid square around it, or it could be a solid rectangle, whatever. It's a solid line. So when we see that, we know that we are looking at the entire horn assembly. This is everything that incorporates the horn assembly. So when you look at a wiring diagram, now you can understand, hey, am I looking at the big picture? Am I looking at the entire component, or am I just looking at a part of it? Why that's important is, for example, we've got over here, right here on the body control module, we've got a dot that has a line with an arrow going to the left. That dot means that there is a splice right there. Okay, those wires are connected, and that circuit goes somewhere else. Now, we don't know where that goes, but we do know there is more to that circuit than just where this circuit goes. Okay, so I'm going to clear out these annotations really quick. Okay, so that's a really basic, just a kind of an overview really quick of a few little things on here. Let's dive down deeper. All right, let's just start at the top, okay? We have a B plus, okay? B plus stands for whatever the battery voltage is that's supplied to the vehicle. Now, just by seeing B plus, do we know if this is switched power? Does this mean it has power all the time? Or is it just with the key on, engine off, key on, engine running, key in accessory mode? We know that. You know how we know that? Because it says B plus. So that means it has battery power all the time. And it kind of makes sense. You know, we can blow our horn sitting in our driveway before we ever crank up our vehicle, right? So B plus means that it's going to have battery power all the time. Now, if it was switched power, it would say something like, key on, engine off, or key on, or accessory mode, or something. It would tell us when it has power, okay? But looking at this, we know that that means it should have power all the time, okay? To this horn relay. All right, so we're sending power all the time to the control side of the horn relay. Now I'm going to spend a lesson. I'm going to not spend. I'm going to create a lesson on horn relays, or not on horn relays, but just on relays in general. Sheesh, I'm all over the place. But that's not this lesson, so we're not going to do a deep dive into relays. Relays are another thing that are very misunderstood, that people don't understand how they work. I didn't understand how they work for a long time, and they will really kick your butt, but they're really cool and really easy. Okay, so we can see, we talked about the B plus, and I kind of gave it away that this is the horn relay. But what the heck is this KR3, Kilo Romeo 3 horn relay? Well, manufacturers, oh gosh, several years ago, when things, you know, kind of the worldwide economy, this service information is not just for us here in the US or wherever you may be. This is for global, okay? Anyone around the world should be able to look at this wiring diagram and understand each component. So manufacturers started, especially GM, started naming their components a letter number combination. So KR3 means horn relay. Okay, I still haven't grasped that. I don't know that all relays are named KR3 or all horn relays named KR3. Don't know, but just understand that's all that is. That's just another name for the horn relay. The global name for the horn relay is what that is, okay? So moving on down, we've got this right here. Okay, what this is, that is the F51UA, which is a fuse. Now, we can assume that it's the horn fuse, right? Because it goes to the horns, but you would actually have to you'd have to reference something else to know the name of the fuse. However, just so you know, sometimes like the fuse box cover will have horn fuse on it. And then you look on this and it's F51UA and you're like, that does me no good. So you just have to look at the context and understand that this would be the horn relay. Sometimes they do use F51UA on the fuse block cover to help you understand that, hey, if you're looking for, if we're needing to test the horn relay, then we're going to be looking in the underhood, in the underhood fuse block cover for F51UA. And it should be that 15A means it should be a 15 amp fuse, okay? 15 amp fuses are blue in color. That'll be kind of the mini fuse, and it should be blue in color. That's a 15 amp fuse. So moving on down, and y'all, we've covered. I've been talking now for about 10 minutes. We haven't covered much of this yet. I hope you've already learned some stuff, but let's continue on. So right at the bottom of the underhood fuse block, we've got some letters and numbers. Okay. We've got, come on, lag. I got a little lag here. We've got, starting with the left here, we've got X2, 25, X1, 11. What the heck? So again, General Motors used to call these C, Charlie, which stood for connector. So now X stands for connector. So what that's telling us is the underhood fuse block is going to have a lot of connectors on the bottom side of it that plug into the underhood fuse block to send power wherever it needs to go. So X2 is going to be connector 2. Okay, sometimes they'll even give you a legend inside the dashed box, like X2 blue or something like that, to let you know, save some time, right? Because technicians are paid, most of them are paid commission. They're not paid clock time. They're paid for the time they work on the vehicle, they're paid a flat amount of time for whatever the thing is. So anything they can do to save the technician's time, it's very helpful. But yeah, X2 means connector 2. And then, like I said, sometimes they'll even have a legend telling you what color each connector is, again, to save time. So X2 is connector 2. And then 25, what this is telling us. So I'll just draw this right under the X2. So a connector, there is a difference in a connector and a terminal, okay? A connector is the plastic part that the wires go into, okay? So I'm just going to draw a really crude, my students make fun of my drawings, but I'm going to draw a really crude drawing of a connector. And there we go. So this is a connector. This is the plastic part that will plug into this fuse block. Is this the exact size? No, okay? And then these will also be named a lot like, if you remember from elementary school, graphing things like, or playing Battleship. B2, you sunk my battleship. So these will be named like A, B, C, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on, okay? So what this is telling us is 25, we got connector 2, so we can call this connector 2. And then 25 would be whatever terminal, which is the wire, a wire with a little, with a metal end on it, with the terminal on it, the fitting, that is a terminal. Okay. So the wire with the fitting on it, that's going to mate to another one, that's the terminal. And then the connector is the plastic part that it will snap into. So you have to figure out which connector is connector 2. And then look on the connector. It should be embossed on there somewhere with raised lettering or printed somewhere to give you an idea of which connector is which. Okay. Or which terminal is which. Excuse me. Okay. Let me back all this out. There's got to be a better way of erasing things than me just hitting back arrow on everything. I got to figure that out. Okay. So that is that part of it. Now, and again, we've got the X2, excuse me, the X1 over to the side of that, over to the right-hand side. And that just means that would be connector 1 and then terminal 11 for connector 1. And let's move on. So we've covered the unhood fuse block pretty well. We've talked about connectors. Now moving on down, we can see right here, let's just follow this fuse. Okay, so we got the fuse coming on down. We're going to follow it down to right here. Oops. We're going to follow that down to right here. And let's talk about this. So we've got a 2.9, and then we have a BN/GY. So what that's showing us here is the 2.9 is the circuit number. Okay, circuit 2.9. And that wire color is brown with a gray stripe. And usually the colors are pretty self-explanatory. It's fairly easy to tell what color that they intend something to be. But yeah, 2.9 is the circuit number. BNGY, I mean, it's a brown wire with a gray stripe. Now, let's talk about circuit numbers. Why does that make a difference? So if for whatever reason, we had a splice right here, and this wire, this fuse powered something else, okay, then it may be a totally separate wiring diagram. Right now we're looking at the horn wiring diagram. Let's say, and this would never be the case, but let's say this is the power seats. Okay. Forgive my drawing, but let's say this is the power seats, which would be a totally separate wiring diagram. However, we could know that circuit 29, if we have a problem with circuit 29, then we would know kind of where to look. So we would know that not only, and actually more realistically, let me do this. More realistically, what they would do is something like they'd do this and then with an arrow. And that's just letting you know, hey, this wire, this circuit does go somewhere else. And it's not, you're not seeing the entire picture here, basically, is what it's saying. So that's circuit numbers are extremely helpful, especially if you have several problems that seem to be totally unrelated. And I do want to talk about some real life case studies, some real things that I have come across as a tech. Recently, last year, we had another teacher brought their truck in. The heating and air conditioning would not work, period. Power windows wouldn't work. The wipers wouldn't work. And some other just random stuff wouldn't work. Well, when that happens, what I used to do was I would print out a wiring schematic for each one of those things and then look and see what circuits they have in common, because there is a common denominator somewhere, and using the circuit numbers will help you figure out what the heck is going on. So that's circuit numbers. Another thing that you'll see sometimes, and honestly, I'm shocked that this is not on there. You'll see like a 0.08 or some other number like that. What that's telling you, and this is again very useful information, because if you need to repair a wire, sometimes the wire gauge size is not 100% known, and that is the wire gauge size. So this would be in millimeters. So that wire is 0.08 millimeters in diameter. So now when you go to the part store, if you're going to repair this wire, you know what size wire you need. Okay. You will see it in millimeters. You'll also see it in American wire gauge, AWG. But it's pretty obvious which one's which. So it would be like a 16 or something like that, and they would make it pretty obvious that that's not the circuit number. Okay. All right, let me get rid of that. Oh, come on, Bill. Good sheesh. There, got rid of all that stuff. Okay, moving on down. Again, we've got the horn assembly. Now, on the horn, we've got a 1 down at the bottom. We got a 2 right here at the top. So hopefully by now you know what those are. Are those connector numbers? No, they're not connector numbers because they don't have an X before them. So we can assume, and they're making a lot of assumptions here. We know now that there's only one connector to the horns, and it has how many terminals in it? 2. So it would look, if we were holding the connector, looking at the terminals, it would look something like this. If we were staring at the terminals of the connector would look something like this with some sort of a clip to hold it in place. So that would be what this connector would look like. There's no connector number because there's only one connector to the horns with just 2 terminals. Terminal 1, which is a what color wire? Black wire. We know that because it shows us down here. And then terminal 2 is going to be brown and gray. Okay. All right, let's move on. I want to try to keep these videos to about 20 minutes, and a little bit past that, but that's okay. I feel like you're learning something, and that's what I want. It's important to me that people learn things. And again, this is for the basic do-it-yourself person who wants to know how to do stuff. A little bit of dabbling on their own, at their house or wherever. Okay, moving on down. All right, so now you should know. Oh shoot, dang it! I keep on grabbing the wrong tool. There. You should know what this is. Okay, so 1150 is the circuit number. Okay, 1150 is the circuit number, and then BK means it's a black wire. Now, moving on down. Let's go. Oops, I moved back a little too much. Okay, looking down here, G101. Okay, G101 would be ground. Now, this symbol that looks kind of like a fork means it's grounded to chassis. Okay, that's a chassis ground. You will also see grounds drawn like similar to this. Come on, lag. Or this is embarrassing. Wow, I've got some really big lag here in my drawings. Anyway, so similar to what you see in the body control module. There we go. Now it's working there. So you'll see a ground drawn like that, very similar to what you see right here in the body control module over on the right-hand side, right there. Those are just indications of a ground circuit, okay? Now, grounds may have more than one circuit grounded to them. Just because on G101 we just see that one black wire going to it, don't assume that that's the only ground that's attached there. There may be something else that's attached to G101, even though it doesn't show us. It's not attached to this wire. It's not attached to circuit number 1150, but the ground itself, where the screw is that screws into the chassis, there may be another circuit grounded there too. Okay. All right, let's move on. For sake of time. Okay, now we'll start at the bottom. On the left-hand side, we got G305. Okay, that's ground 305. Okay. Moving up from there, we've got PK. PK is pink. Okay, and it is circuit 550. Now, what's really cool here is this. They don't give us, and then right up above that, you can see the RD. RD means red. But then we got this funky looking thing that has an A beside it. And then it's like 2 arrows pointing down. So let's talk about that. I'm going to draw over here on the right-hand side, because this is really good information here. Okay. So what we're looking at here, this means it's a connector. Okay, this means that there's a pigtail, like the horn switch will have a little bit of wire sticking out of it with a connector on the end of it, and that is the connector for it. Now we can see right here that that's terminal A of the horn switch. Okay, so we know this is the horn switch. Is this the entire horn switch we're looking at? Is this everything in that horn switch? How do you know that? So we know because of the dashed lines. We know this isn't everything that's in that horn switch, but it's relevant to what we're looking for. Okay, so it's not everything, but it's what we need. And then right up above that, we have this other terminal, this other connector that is B. So this, again, it's a 2-wire connector. It's got an A terminal and a B terminal. So back to my question. Why the arrow looking things? This is very useful information if you're going to repair a connector, or if you're going to do some testing, you need to use a jumper wire to jump something. This means it's a female connector. Okay, so when you have this, that's the female side of the connector. Okay, the other part is the male side. Okay, because it's just the way it is. Okay, laugh about it, and we giggle sometimes in class. But yeah, that's the female side. This is the male side of the connector, because that's how connectors are put together. We have a male side, we have a female side. And so now you know, if you needed to do some testing and you needed a jumper wire, do I need a jumper wire with female ends, or do I need a jumper wire with male ends? Okay, so that's that. Get rid of my annotations there. Okay, and then we're going to move up to the steering wheel airbag coil, which is component number X-ray 85X85. This is a really cool thing. I may spend some time on it one of these days, but it's the airbag coil. It's what allows us to turn the steering wheel, but still have wires that aren't like twisting and turning every time we turn the steering wheel. It's a really cool thing. And we can see we got connector 1, connector 2, and then the terminal numbers down there as well. So I don't want to spend a lot of time on that component. I'm just familiarizing y'all with a wiring diagram. And then moving up from there, get rid of this annotation. There we go. All right, moving up from there, we have our body control module, our K9 body control module. Okay, and then X3 means connector 3. So we know, just based off of this wiring diagram, there are at least 5 connectors on the body control module. How do we know that? Well, this one's named connector 3. This one's named connector 5. So we know there's at least 5. Okay. Not going to get into what's going on in this wiring diagram, how the horn works, or any of that stuff. I just wanted to introduce y'all to wiring diagrams. And again, remember, anytime you see like this right here, a dot, or I'll draw one right here, and then a wire going somewhere else, just understand that that circuit is going somewhere else as well. Don't have your blinders on so much that you think that there's not a problem elsewhere if you see something like this, okay? Because there could be a problem in that end of the circuit that's affecting the horns. Okay, I hope that I was able to teach you guys something. I thoroughly do enjoy teaching. I tried to make it as simple as I could today for you. Please, in the suggestions below, in the comments, please tell me what you would like me to see, what you would like to see me teach next time, or in the future. Maybe not next time, because I already kind of have a little bit of a plan for next time. But in the future, what would you like me to teach? And again, let's keep it simple for now. I may eventually work into more complicated things. I have some other ideas, maybe branching out into helping people diagnose problems with their vehicles. But let's do it one step at a time. So please like and subscribe my channel. That gets visibility, right? Liking and subscribing and especially comments will get visibility to my channel. If you like what I did, please like and subscribe. See you next time, everybody. Take care. I'm out.